Previously in X-Men, a team divided is a team defeated, perhaps. Last issue, the X-Men split into two parts to find two different mutants in different parts of the United States. One in Chicago, who we met, named Catherine Kitty Pryde, who was registered on Professor X's machine Cerebro, detected by Cerebro, I should say, not registered. And so half the team goes out to find Kitty Pryde and recruit her to the school. The other half to New York, which they were basically already in, to find a mysterious mutant. They don't know who it is. We know who it is because we've read this issue. We've read X-Men 130, which is famously the first appearance of Dazzler. And there's my copy. I'm not opening this one now because I've learned in the last few months that this has skyrocketed in price, and I'm no longer going to open up my old ones. So that's aside. That's been sitting in a box in my basement for a while. This is episode 39 of the show. This Group of 7 Comics presents Previously in X-Men. I am Jason Lapidus.
Hey, I'm Chris Sanagan.
And we're joined by Nelson Caetano. I should point that way, pardon me.
Hi.
So Nelson, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to reading through this issue. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I think so too. And we see you at like every event we go to. And it's one of those things where thankfully we're always a little busy, which is really nice. Yeah. And whenever we get a chance to say hi, it's always good times. Yeah, but this is probably the first time we've actually gotten to spend more than 30 seconds in a stretch talking to you face to face. We talked to Sandy, your wife, quite a bit. She comes by always and says hello. And because, you know, of the nature of, I think, those events, she has an extra minute or two to schmooze with us and talk about how great you all good wives do for their boys. So it's been nice to get to know Sandy, but we really haven't had a chance to talk to you, the man behind the comics you make. So can you tell us a little bit about what it is that you actually make?
I write and illustrate a series called The Gathering Place, and it really grew out of my day job where I'm a teacher, and just finding resources that met the needs of my students, and just found that the textbooks that we were using really wasn't fulfilling, I guess, the diversity that was in my classroom. And so I started researching these biographies on Canadian artists and brought their stories into the classroom. And it just started clicking with my students. And I figured, you know, if teenagers can get excited about history and art history, then there's something here with these stories. I gotta share them with more people than the 30 of us in our classroom.
Right.
And it's been a blast, from everything from researching the backstories, looking at their artwork. I've even studied their artwork just to sort of get a feel for what it is that they do, and then finding those short little unique moments in their lives that really bring a lot of interest and a lot of intrigue into what they did. And then I asked the question to my students, you know, why aren't their stories recorded? Why aren't their stories make it in the textbooks? And it comes down to a lot of diversity and a lot of other stuff that we can, you know, dig into when you look at, you know, what makes it into the history textbooks in general, or what makes it into any book in general. So,
right.
But it's nice to unearth these stories and get them out there into people's hands. And the reaction's been positive. I mean, it's not your standard comic book when you think about what's involved. I mean, first off, we're looking at history. We're looking at biographies. We're not looking at, you know, anything that's, you know, sci-fi, adventure, or fantasy. And it definitely is a different pace in terms of storytelling. And it's really helped me actually in the artwork that I do in terms of how to tell biographies in a very interesting and unique way. Because when you look at storytelling through the medium, there's all sorts of different ways of telling a story and getting a hold of someone's attention. And a biography, you know, without, you know, any action sequences, how do you get that across, that excitement across? So it's been a fun journey.
Graydon James, how you doing, man? Long time no see. Says he loves the lettering. I do too. It's a really noticeable, unique feature.
Oh
of
yeah.
this image. Is like that lettering stands out. I haven't seen anything like that before. Was that a font that you developed yourself, or was it inspired by something specific?
It was actually a really old font that fell out of popularity. It goes back to the 20s or 30s.
Yeah, like an Art Deco.
And there, I forgot I guess who sort of resurrected it in the past few years. It really hasn't caught on. But once I found it, I knew it just fit right with the tone for what I wanted to do with the cover and what I wanted to communicate with the theme, the overall theme in that book. And yeah, I get all sorts of positive feedback just on that one font selection. So
It's nice.
Amazing.
It's so nice when something hits and you get a response. Take it, whatever element it's going to be, whether it's your color choices or the body language of that foot. Like there's so much there's energy in the foot, even like there's so much. So whatever you're going to get feedback for, whether it's the lettering or something else, I always take it. Hey Trevor, how are you doing, man? He says it's beautiful. That's nice to hear.
Thank you.
Always. Yeah,
and I know what you mean about the whole, we've I think the first time we met Nelson was talking about, I want to say it was at Mississauga Comic Expo, I think a few years back. We were both there, and I think we did the online thing first and then meet in person thing, and talking about history and art and storytelling and inspiration and classrooms specifically. And so I know the history textbooks, obviously are sometimes at that level are sometimes much to be desired. But I will say, have you heard of a history textbook called Group of Seven, A Most Secret Tale, which is, a real humdinger of a story textbook.
That's where, a good spot where our worlds kind of collide is that there are gaps in people's experiences with history, and whether those gaps are in factual stories that are being told or biographical stories that are being told, or in our case, the play of history. Like we enjoy like messing around with history and doing some alternate history and some fiction and the action adventure stuff that never really happened, but so much fun to imagine, like what if it could. And I love that our experiences are really about filling in the parts of history learning that we respond to. So you wanted those things, so you made a thing. We wanted something, so we made a thing. And that common ground, I think, is a very happy place to be, and it brings us together. And let's look at that mug. What you got there? That's a pretty wild mug.
Oh yeah, this is Sandy. This is all Sandy. So this is what winds up happening at the conventions, at the shows. I'm stuck behind the table, and as Sandy goes from table to table, chatting me up and bragging, she picks up little things here and there, and so she comes back with bags of stuff. Goes, I found this for you.
Oh,
and she's my enabler. I mean, I used to have a decent sized collection of collectibles, and then over the years, it's been she'll surprise me with stuff, and it's like, I saw you were missing this, and it's like, how did you know I was missing this?
Right, that's awesome.
Because I think I've seen on other whether it's on videos or photos or socials, whatever it is, you have is it Green Lantern Corps? Is it Aquaman? You've got something you collect a lot. You've had a lot of.
Yeah, Green Lantern's been the big one.
Okay, all right.
It probably takes up the most space in the studio.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I have the shelves all set up, and
What's that? Oh, you're on mute, Jason. We can't hear you.
Sorry, I picked up today Earth 1.
Oh yes,
it's still in plastic wrap. You've read it, Nelson?
Yes.
Is that
Jeff Johns? I enjoy what they've done with the Earth 1 books.
Yeah,
it definitely is. Just another take, and it really is a good take on it. I found it a lot of fun. That's it. Out of the wrapper.
There it goes.
Out of the wrapper.
Seal.
Yeah, I saw a video on it yesterday, and after seeing the art, I was at the comic store today anyway, and so this is really stiff, which is awesome. After seeing the artwork, and it's ink and brush, like it looks Like someone's doing some really great work, I want to take a closer look at it. So that's very cool. Green James says it's the, I think he's referring to Group of Seven, Unless Secret Tales, the original What If, or it's the most Canadian What If, right? Yeah. We definitely
they're announcing the next, What If series with our stuff at SDCC tomorrow. Hall H, whatever that is.
I know this is not a Green Lantern show, but Nelson, do you have a favorite Green Lantern? Like, is there a version that's your favorite?
I always want to say Hal Jordan, because it goes back to being a kid, and my introduction to the comic book world came from growing up and watching Saturday morning cartoons and watching the Super Friends.
Yeah.
So fixated in my head it's always been Hal Jordan, and or sort of for legacy reasons I want to say that, but I kind of really enjoy what they did with Kyle Rayner and how they. And I know at the time it was a hit or miss with the audience. Either you loved it or you hated it. And this idea of totally tearing down the Green Lantern core and then giving the ring to a graphic designer or illustrators, a creative individual who at the time, that's where my career path was leading, was into graphic design. It was like, yes, they gave the ring to one of us. It's like, right? This is what I would do. And so, during those early issues, it was like, yeah, that's exactly what I would have done. I would have created one of those, a set square or this or whatever it is you're using. And it was a different interpretation. At the time, yeah, I missed that whole legacy that it came prior to it, the whole idea of a core and a team. Because up until that point, a lot of the books I was reading were just solo heroes. I loved Punisher, Daredevil, Moon Knight, and so it took me a while to get into team books.
Right.
And once I started getting into the Green Lantern coring, this idea of the team members coming together, working together, I like this idea. And even with X-Men, it took me a while to get into X-Men. It was my friends around me who were like, "You got to read this. You got to read this." And
good segue.
Yeah,
it it worked. It really it clicked with me, and it was just prior to the X-Men blowing up with Jim Lee. So I caught the tail end of Mark Silvestri as Jim Lee was starting. And as a young kid at the time, I was just starting high school. That type of artwork just appealed to me. I mean, it called back to a lot of what Neil Adams was doing when I was like a wee little kid. So it was nice to see all that feathering and all that, artistry in there, all that work in there. But that being said, the great thing about X-Men is it's built on, legacy. And I believe there's a Haya friends.
Yeah.
From
your other computer is in use.
Yeah, I guess so. Hi, dear.
Hi, Sandy.
Hi, Sandy.
Love
awesome.
you.
That's awesome.
Oh, great. But yeah, it was the great thing about X-Men is there's always that, go back and read it. Everything's built up. And if you really want to get a full sense of it, of the story at that time, you sort of had to go back. And it was great for the local comic book shop because I was, back issue diving all the time and just diving in and saying, I need this set or I need this set.
Sure. Where were you, by the way, at that time?
Where was I?
In the world.
In the world?
Where you grew up.
I've been a Toronto boy my entire life. I had when it came to that point of, getting married, settling down and getting a house, all my friends were moving out of the city and I did my darndest to stay in the city.
So what was your store that you were going back issue diving?
It's no longer around. It was called Yesterday Heroes.
Yeah.
It was on Bathurst, just south of Bloor Street. So right around Honest Ed's.
Mm-hmm.
And just as I was starting comics, that was the closest store to me. Then eventually when I went to high school, I happened to go to the high school that was right across the street from it. So that helped my addiction. And then about a year or two later after I started high school, the Beguiling opened up.
Right.
And they were just around the corner. So
I remember Yesterday's Heroes. That was on the west side, right?
Yep.
Across from Central Tech.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Okay. Yeah. I totally had Spider-Man. It had a Spider-Man, I think, as part of it.
They did have Spider-Man on the logo.
Yeah. Okay.
And there used to be a mural just around the corner where had an elderly man with glasses and a mustache. He was the original owner. And then after he passed, his daughter held on to the business for a while. And then she sold it to an individual who held on it for a number of years, who was a big time comic book fan. And then last I heard, he sort of was made an offer he couldn't refuse. Someone just walked in and said, I want to buy everything. And he asked, what do you mean by everything? Everything. I want back issues, boxes, everything that's on the walls. I want everything. And he just, it's a good time to retire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a wild story. So yeah, buying back issues was pretty special. When you were reading this end of the Silvestri run, you know, the X-Men are the Outback X-Men, as they're often called.
Yeah.
You know, there's, of course, we're going to connect it back now.
The Outback X-Men?
Well, yeah. I don't want to get into it because we're going to get there naturally. We're going to get there. I'll tell you. The X-Men went into an alternate dimension. They all decided to work at the restaurant called the Outback.
Okay, so it's not, they weren't in Australia.
They were in Australia. Yes, that's the truth. I was just going to make it up. They weren't really working at the restaurant. But what I was going to say was that there's a group of villains that come after Wolverine in a famous issue, a group of villains called the Reavers. And they're a bunch of cyborgs.
Yes.
And they're comprised of former members of the Hellfire Club.
Right.
They get like their arms cut off and they get augmented and have a hate on it for Wolverine forever. And they make some of his most graphically interesting villains that Silvestri kind of visually designs. These again, cyborg characters, including Reese, Macon, and Cole, who are three of the pawns, I guess, that we're going to see in an upcoming issue. So that is a neat connection. Like when you're reading those books, and I guess it's 89, 90-ish, you're kind of brought back to the Claremont and Byrne books, because this is like an ongoing thread, which is pretty good. And of course, while they were in the Outback, they had a team up with Crocodile Dundee.
And they played Knifey Spoony.
Which is a great game we all play. But Nelson, were you reading classic X-Men? Because this is coming out at the same time that you're reading those Silvestri issues and the early Lee stuff. And this is like the one that's for today of classic X-Men.
I don't know how or if that was timed with Marvel to work out, but I wound up picking up some of those classic X-Men issues because they're obviously a lot more affordable at that age, right? So so it was a mixed match of the original stuff and some of that classic X-Men stuff that was coming out at the time. And again, it was my friends telling me, you know what, if you're loving this stuff, you got to go back. You got to learn who these guys are. So let's do it. And
I was noticing, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, counting all the X titles that were on when, again, you and I are reading, it's 1989 when this is coming out. So we're reading like the current Uncanny X-Men. I'm reading classic X-Men. There's New Mutants. There's X-Factor. There's Excalibur. Mm-hmm. And what am I forgetting? There's Wolverine. There's Marvel Comics Presents.
Yes.
That's 7 titles. If you're an X-Men fan, you're reading 7 books. And there could be, of course, then there's, X-Men Alpha Flight 2-parter. There's the annuals. There's this here and this there. X-Men versus Fantastic Four. X-Men versus Avengers. There's like all these other limited series. But there were 7 ongoing monthly titles. And actually with Marvel Comics Presents, it's bi-weekly.
It was.
So there was a lot of content. I had to stop collecting because I couldn't keep up with all the things. Like G.I. Joe also ballooned to a few different.
But what's interesting though, because if we like flash forward a little bit to like say the last 10 years of X titles, which I'm just gonna pop out of air the ones I know. That though, having 7, it is 100% a lot, right? Like that's a lot. But they've like replicated that, if not 7, close to. So there was the launch, because I only know because it came out around our first issue because we were at the Drag at the time. Like there was like X-Men Prime, X-Men Blue, X-Men Red, X whatever. Gold, right. Then there was the newer stuff on Krakoa where it's like House of X, a Sword of X, X Swords, anyway, you know what I'm saying? There's just tons. There's never just one title, I guess is what I'm saying. There's always seemingly like by design, at least
right.
four.
Oh, for sure. And still X-Force, right? With his New Mutants. And you're always going to have your X Factor and Excalibur, like these other, and of course Wolverine always, and Wolverine can have multiple titles too.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a ton of content. You can see why they have their own group editor, someone who's overseeing the brand, and whatever you plan to do, whatever story you tell, has to fit within the larger vision for that stretch of time. But back when we're reading, in whether it's 1980 or 1989, which is when these two books are coming out. Claremont is at the top of all of it in terms of the writing. He's basically writing every series and guiding all these characters. There really seem to be like he's the steward of these characters of that time period, which is kind of neat to see. And we're going to get into some neat stuff that forever gets referenced, in every other iteration of X-Men. The Dark Phoenix Saga is one of I don't know, is it like the pivotal tale that gets told? These powers that get out of hand that the X-Men have to always sort of watch out for one of their own trying to take over. I mean, in a way, you could argue, in the loosest definition, that it is also the same kind of story as Magneto. It's a character with unbelievable power that they're going to have an agenda that's different than the team's agenda, and they have to put that character down. Or try to stop them. With Magneto, it's just a cycle. With Phoenix, this is going to get out of hand, and they're going to have to stop her in some way. And it's just about this corrupting, this journey of her getting corrupted over. I guess it's about 37 issues from when she becomes the Phoenix until they finally have to come to a conclusion of what to do with the Jean Grey problem.
Yeah, and it's a real. I'll say this: I'm disappointed to have missed last week's episode because it's really part one of the story.
It is, but you read it.
But no, because it's such a finality. They write that that whole arc, and then going around in Savage Land, and going to Japan, and then going to Muir Island and fighting Proteus, and it really does mark it as the end because within the first 2 pages of last issue, Banshee leaves the team.
Yeah, so we have
my boy.
Anyone who's new to the show out there on the internet, Chris, you have been doing an amazing job for the last 39 weeks.
Cut so deep. I had to read it. I'm like, no.
Of reading the character of Banshee, voicing the character of Banshee, and leaning into one of the most beautiful stereotype voice performances I've ever heard. You do a great American stereotype of an Irish.
A Lucky Charms.
Yes. You do a Lucky Charms accent, and it's been great. You've developed your own fan base. You have a mailing list, T-shirts.
It's just now it's its own business.
So Banshee is gone, or is he? The backup to this issue.
Ooh.
The backup that's the boy right there.
There's my boy.
There's your boy. So what are you gonna do?
Anyway,
so
but even going out, having these characters stop, and then we had to find 2 new characters, and one is Catherine Kitty Pryde,
right?
A mainstay, a new, they haven't mainstay to the future episode,
sure,
future issues too, right? So
it's also, I was just thinking about this with the team heading into really the kind of the third act of of the Claremont Byrne or the Claremont first kind of era. Each character's had a chance to have character building moments. We've had times where we've seen Aurora put under huge amounts of stress, and we feel like we know her really well now. We definitely know Wolverine a lot better than we did 10 issues ago. We know Colossus way better than we knew him 10 issues ago. We've seen him lose his virginity. We've seen him murder somebody. After those 2 things, a man. So, there's a lot going on there. And it's neat to see, now that we know everyone really well, now we're going to put them to the test and see what they're really made of now that we've had a chance to know everyone. So it's a very exciting thing to get into it with these guys. One last time, we'll hear some more Banshee. Don't you worry, Trevor. We'll get some Banshee in there. For sure.
It'll be my Logan performance one last time.
Oh, nice. So that reminds me, before we crack open this issue, which Chris has provided for us digitally, this amazing scans of this 79-ish, 80-ish. I'm not exact. I know it comes out. The cover date says it's 79, but I think it might come out in, I don't know, early 80s. But it's the transition, the decade transition. Nelson, are there any characters that you want to read the voice for?
Oh, just throw me a character and I'll take it over. Yeah,
There are a lot of characters. I mean,
I don't know. Who's in this one quite a bit?
Do we have a Jason and like Jason Wingard, Sebastian Shaw? There are some good villains in there.
For sure. So here's kind of how we play it. We don't really hold to anything hard, except for that Chris gets to do any Irish people.
That means I'll lay off the.
It really doesn't matter like who reads what. We don't even have to be that consistent. Often, if there's just a pause and you feel like jumping in, go for it. We try to avoid having someone read two characters that are talking.
Yeah.
And they're reading both characters, so often you just have to, pick up the next character. But whatever you want to do, we just go with the flow. We do not always hit the accents right. We don't always hit the voices. We're just going to have a good time with it. I know that there are some pretty awkward lines last week. David Cutler was awesome. He's currently working on X-Men and Moon Girl. Moon Girl, Devil Dinosaur, and X-Men.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
Really nice guy. We had a great time, and he had to read a line that Kitty Pryde said that was so racist. Oh. She's opposite Storm. I'll say it again. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I know that.
She's sitting opposite Storm in the diner, and she's like, "Storm, we have black kids at my school, but none of them look like you." And it's like, "Oh, dude, that would not. That's not okay to say out loud." And David was he was really cute about it. He didn't know he wanted to read it out loud. He really hesitated. So if there's anything you don't want to read, you can always pull the Cutler protocol and just opt out, and it's totally okay. You're most welcome to it. Yeah. DV says we're slowly shifting from the all new, all different team to the family era team that runs from 144 to 209. Yeah, it's neat to see how the all new, all different team has sort of faded out as they also adopted the Uncanny moniker for the rest of all time. It seems. Yeah. Bearded Builds, how are you? Oh, are you drinking a whiskey? What do you got there? I've got the coffee. I've got the water, but the whiskey sounds like a much better idea for next time. Does not quench the thirst, but it's definitely a good idea. So we've got, this is another like kind of monumental thing here. We've got the first time that mainstay, or like, I don't know, he's forever linked to Uncanny X-Men, John Romita Jr. on the cover. This is his first time working on the cover or working on X-Men. He does the character design for Dazzler.
Okay.
There's a whole story about this. Oh, here we go. It's Canadian Club and Canada Dry. Very nice.
Ryan Ginger, very nice.
Pure Canadian drink. Absolutely. It's part of every good Canadian's breakfast. So this was supposed to be a huge multimedia thing. They had this idea to have a character that was going to have a movie, a concept album, and they were going to have comics tie-in. And no joke. And they were in talks with Bo Derek. So she's supposed to be like come on, you're not supposed to look like Bo Derek, and it was going to be a whole thing. And then she pulls out, the album and the movie deal fall apart, and they've already kind of created the comic book character, and they decided to go forward with her anyway. Nelson sounds like he could do a good Cyclops. No offense. Why?
Right.
Who'd be offended? Come on. So we noticed that Cyclops says the word Mr. a lot.
Mr. All right.
He says it like kind of sort of the way you'd say it as an insult, like a curse word at someone, like calling someone an asshole or whatever. So every time he says Mr., we have to take a shot. That's just
okay.
Of the tea and coffee.
Of the tea. Okay.
Yeah. Watching that. But yeah, he's like, watch it, Mr. all the time. So they were going to have this huge multimedia thing. They go with her, introduce her into the book. So often Claremont and Byrne get credit for creating Dazzler falsely by fans because they're the first ones to have her in the issue, but they're not part of her conception. I've already forgotten who the writer is. It's like a guy who works in the office, one of those Marvel writers who works in the bullpen. And of course, at that time, Romita Jr. is hanging around the bullpen too, soaking up work, trying to get whatever he can get going to get a regular run on the title. And eventually, of course, we'll see him come on X-Men in about 55 issues, maybe. I don't remember what his first one is, but we'll see him on X-Men for a long time and with more than one run. So it's neat to have the first JR.
That is. I like that cover, though. I mean, I like there's a lot going on there that, I mean, with the lights, even in the X-Men title, and then, you know, them all kind of being blinded. I dig it. I like it.
Me too. And I do have the action figure of this character, this iteration. I just couldn't find it. I ran out of time. I went looking. Oh, David Cutler's here. Cyclops is the franchise. There you go. Everyone's got to be able to do a good Cyclops voice.
Right.
So the heroic Cyclops, I think, Nelson, it's your turn.
I'll take it on.
Everyone who comes in gets the turn at Cyclops. So I'm going to take us out of the mix and put us full layout on this comic book.
Okay.
And we're going to go forward with it. And I'm very much looking forward to Uncanny X-Men 130.
Here we go.
There's actually so much background to talk about with these characters. There is no Delano Street, by the way, in New York, but it just works. They, you know, making up based on a part of the town that had that name, but not the street is not real. So we know that they're there in Lower Manhattan. It says Claremont is setting the scene, letting us know that this is now just a derelict area, and it's not the kind of place where you'd park a Rolls Royce. And the license plate is Chaz X1. I love it. But the X-Men, they have their Rolls Royce, and it's just setting the scene. We don't have to spend much time getting into it. But there you go. And no surprises in the creative team as usual. Claremont on writing. Byrne is penciling and co-plotting with Claremont, and Austin on inks. Tom Orzechowski is amazing on letters. Glynis Wein on colors. Yeah, Roger Stern is editor. I think Roger Stern might have actually been the one to create Dazzler with Romita Jr., but correct me if I'm wrong, please. All right.
Keep going.
Please do. And we get the classic stuff where, you know, Jim Shooter sets it up. There's sort of a mandate at Marvel that every comic is somebody's first. So you can jump in on this issue and you get an introduction to these guys. Each of the characters, you get to see them in both their iterations. In the case of, obviously, Cyclops and Jean Grey or Phoenix. So you get a chance to see how their powers work without having to wait till, you know, page 13 of the issue. I like the miscolor of the white-faced Nightcrawler. That is creepy.
Yeah.
I want to open up my original and see if it's like that on the real thing. Or if that's just yours.
We can't open your original. Then it'd be
ruined.
I
paid $5 for it.
But this is a great recap. This is a great, like.
Do you want to read it?
Do what?
Or should we can let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Okay. All right.
So whoever, Nelson, you want to do Cyclops?
Yeah, I'll come in on Cyclops. So, all right. As you know, our mutant detector Cerebro picked up 2 strong contacts. Professor Xavier and the other X-Men went to check out the one in Chicago, leaving us the one in New York. Cerebro indicated our mutant was on the move all day until a couple of hours ago, when he finally settled down here.
I don't see why you two are so nervous. This is my kind of neighborhood. Lots of shadows, lots of things to climb on.
Now, in honor of our friend David Cutler, who there is a character named Cutler who is one of these guys. I don't know if you noticed that in the last issue. One of these guys on these pawns, his name is Cutler. And we have David Cutler on as our guest at the same time. But those guys were in Chicago.
Quick
These
question.
are New York guys.
Quick question. Are these guys called pawns?
I don't know why I think that.
Okay.
I don't know what made me think that that's what they're called.
They're not named in this issue, at least. I was actually very curious because I love the design. I know I've seen them before. I'm familiar with their faces and things.
Right.
But yeah, I know. I'm just curious if like they actually had as opposed to like Goon 1 and Goon 2 or Cutler and whatever, you know.
They might be called like Hellfire Foot Soldiers.
Right.
I don't want to look it up right now, but Chris, would you mind actually just reading the part that this particular goon says?
Sure.
I want to check something in my studio while you do that, please.
Contact confirmed. Specific data to follow. Sensors on. All systems active. We marked 3 X-Men. Scott Summers, a.k.a. Cyclops. Team leader, mutant ability, solar charged optic beam fired from his eyes, controlled in part by his ruby quartz visor. Jean Grey, a.k.a. Marvel Girl, a.k.a. Phoenix. Extremely high range, telepath, telekinetic, full potential unknown, handled with extreme care. Kurt Wagner, a.k.a. Nightcrawler. Extraordinary athletic abilities, aided by unusually dexterous hands and feet, and a prehensile tail. Also subject and teleported for small distances and become nearly invisible in deep shadow. And the other one then says, "Why are you telling me all this, Bill?" God, I'm right beside you, Bill. I get it. Alert the attack force. We'll strike as soon as you get the word from base. Those poor fools won't know what hit them. There you go. Vince, I don't know what I'm going to call him, but like, I get it, Vince. I'm right beside you. I know what they are. Who are you talking to, Vince? JC, you still there?
I am still here. Sorry.
Okay.
I had muted my microphone, of course, and it's a sensitive button.
Gotcha.
So I have to push it really hard. But Sandy says she loves Wolverine, but X-23 is her favorite. Is that because of the movie or animated series or just her look? Or maybe, Nelson, you draw X-23 really well. I'm curious to see what Sandy says.
No, you know what? Once the character was like first introduced, I got Sandy into reading comics, and that was the first character that she really started to read and gravitate to. And then once the movie came out, she loved the character in the movie or how they portrayed it. But it was really from those first, Chris Yost miniseries that came out and sort of fleshed out her backstory. She really liked it. Very
cool. Trevor says, I think they're just goons. Yeah. Or guards. Yeah. Yeah. I wonder if they do extend that chess theme. We also noticed last issue that Byrne drew a lot of like playing card. There's one scene where he draws playing card iconography on the Hellfire Club's like underground like throne room.
Okay.
And it was so weird that, because you do have some of obviously the king and queen in playing cards, but it was so clearly like a chess theme for the rest of the time, like moving forward. So I wonder if that was like early on in the process and they course corrected away from playing cards. I am not sure at all. The All New Wolverine by Tom Taylor has X-23 taking up the Wolverine mantle, and it's a fantastic read, says David Cutler. There you go, who we believe is a member of the Hellfire Club, by the way. So we will see more about these guys, and I will one day check out. Eventually, I'll get around to reading more about X-23. I have a couple action figures of her. I think she's awesome. Love her in the movie, love her in the cartoon. Love the idea. I love the idea. Obviously, Mando, the reluctant father, putting Wolverine in the role of not wanting to take care of someone else. And I know that she's not like that so much in the comics, but I loved it in the movie. I love the reluctant father storyline archetype.
Speaking of kid heroes, or that age, certainly how it's played in the movie, and connecting it to this story, I didn't know this, and when I read the issue previous to this, I was kind of shocked to see that Kitty is 13 and a half.
Yes, she's
like she's not 16, young. She's like 13 and a half.
She's very young. Same age as my son. Yeah, so I should watch out for his mutant powers.
Yeah.
So Trevor is telling us that the Hellfire Club was borrowed from an episode of The Avengers. There's actually so much that is borrowed. I promise we'll get to it. Every character we're going to come across is referencing another character significantly from the Avengers, the British
Avengers
show. We'll get into it. There's so much coming, but absolutely that is a well documented thing. Like Claremont does not have to invent much for this. They're really pulling from things that they already love, and they're taking characters' names and referencing actors and character names combined to make Sebastian Shaw. It's like we'll get there in a couple minutes for sure. So, meanwhile, blissfully unaware of the danger, and this is not for Cyclops.
Nightcrawler, for obvious reasons, this is as far as you go. Stay out here and keep an eye on the rolls. rough part of town.
Yeah.
You see or hear anything funny? Let me know fast.
Expecting trouble, Scott?
Just getting careful in my old age. Gene, we go this way.
You've been on edge ever since Professor X returned.
I know. I guess I'd gotten used to being on my own, to running the X-Men my own way. Sure, I've made mistakes. But to Xavier, everything I've done is wrong. Uh-oh. Those people seem to be going where we're going.
Shortly inside.
Phew! What a stench. I'll bet this place hasn't been cleaned since it was built.
Do you have any idea what we're looking for? It's
Not
right
really.
there on the sign, right in front of you.
Look beside you.
It's right there, Gene.
Foreshadowing.
Yes.
Not really. Our mutant could be male or female, young or old. We haven't a clue to its abilities. All we're sure of is that it's a single person, very powerful, and somewhere in this club. Tell me, Gene, is this where old discos go to die?
So I love the idea that Byrne and Claremont, go to a disco or to some sort of punk club to have a sense of like what these things would really be like.
Yeah.
But they say that part of the reason that the Dazzler deal fell apart as this concept album and movie was that there started to be a real negative stigma around disco as a genre. So like the shine came off of it. So like let's not do a disco character anymore. And slowly they move the Dazzler character into like new wave in the 80s anyway. Like they take her out of disco, they change her look, they update her. But in this moment, it is a really weird mix of like what Byrne thinks a punk club would be. People in half costume. I mean, I don't even know what half these people are doing there. It really does not look like any derelict building in terms of like the people inside. All he had to do was go to CBGB's and
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
take a few photographs, maybe if you could, or just look at the people outside and punk these people up a lot more. But Byrne has such a funny style of his fashion sense is hilarious, and I imagine it's that way with every comic book artist who is no longer. Or any comic book artist who did not grow up or hang out in these kinds of places, because there are artists even like into their 50s and 60s who still are like outsiders. That's not John Byrne, so it's funny to see this. Sound and light hit with equal force in an audio-visual blitzkrieg that stuns the senses. Even at the door, as far as possible from the dance floor, it's impossible to talk in anything less than a shout. Automatically, Gene shifts into a telepathic rapport with Scott, using the mind link to communicate with him in complete privacy. Or, if you're British, privacy.
I was going to say. Jason Wingard, it's privacy.
Pick up a Cream magazine, John. For sure. I'd like to see Byrne also do like these caricatures. Is that a Joker face or what? It's one of the most elongated, exaggerated faces we see from Byrne.
It almost harkens back to his Pierre Trudeau face, right back in the Alpha Flight issues.
It reminds me of Alan Davis's work too, like those two characters.
What's in that character's hair?
Good question.
Eyeballs?
I don't know. I really can't tell. Let's just maggots. Let's go with maggots.
Nice. All right.
Okay, sure.
I really don't know. From the first, both X-Men realized that the disco isn't a very nice one.
Not like those discos in Westchester.
No, definitely not. I also love, by the way, like the little like the dumbing down of color so that Jean is wearing her superhero colors.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. I like when they have characters wear like their home team colors when they're even in their away uniforms. Like I think it's always kind of cool. You always know Jean's Jean.
I love how Scott has his Dick Tracy watch too.
Yeah, it's awesome.
All right, so we're continuing on?
Please.
Yes. What kind of mutant are we going to find in a place like this? Oh, well, We won't know until we find him or her or it.
He's very woke.
Very woke. Yeah. I think we'll do better if we split up, Gene. You scan the crowd with your psi powers. I'll use my watch.
I wrote that down. I'll use my watch.
He's walking up to people, beep, 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 and, the whole time. And people are like, dude, fuck off. Look, this is the most square person ever in this disco, quote unquote. He does not blend at all. He's such a narc.
Oh, yeah.
What's it to you, Knock?
So he explains that he has a micro cerebro built in, which is really very cool. Micro cerebro. I want to have one of those.
Mm-hmm.
And his watch will start beeping when he goes near a mutant, or near that mutant specifically. That's pretty cool. Scan the crowd with your psi powers. That's easier said than done, Scott. I can't screen out everyone's thoughts. Some of the images I'm receiving are so vile, but I can handle that. Part of me almost finds those thoughts attractive.
Whoa.
And then look at the hat on this dude in the background.
That is a 10-gallon hat.
Oh my goodness. I don't even know what Byrne is doing there. I picture Kramer walking down the street in the Technicolor Dream coat.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
So, and while Scott and Jean carefully search the disco. Oh, I love it. They call it a disco. Nightcrawler yawns and wishes he were somewhere else. He's noticed the delivery truck parked across the street, of course, and forgotten a moment later. After all, how is he to know that inside the van?
We're ready to go.
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
Yeah,
please.
We're ready to go, Mr. Shaw. We can hit him anytime. Now, who's the voice of Shaw?
I'll do it. It's fine. Excellent, Rhodey.
Rhodey!
Who's Rhodey? Excellent, Rhodey. The Hellfire Club is proud of you. Only a few blocks down Fifth Avenue from Avengers Mansion stands a building that, like the van, is far less innocent than it appears. This is the legendary Hellfire Club.
I love how they are neighbors with the Avengers.
So I like that too. I think that really, that to me, implicates the Avengers in all of their crimes. So I like the idea that that's what's going on there.
None of you could pick up what was going down the street? None of you?
Where are your psi powers? I'm just going to look up my source on this.
For the Hellfire Club?
The Hellfire Club stuff, because there was just so much there. So, of course, yes, the real name of the Hellfire Club, that's all good. Right, there was a real club called the Hellfire Club, first thing. And in the Avengers, that British TV show, and of course there was a movie made of it with Ralph Fiennes and
Sean Connery
and Uma Thurman. Thank you. So here are some of the notes about the Hellfire Club, and this gets deep. So just hang on with me, okay? So there's several allusions to pop culture. That's the first one we have to know. So there's that Avengers thing from an episode called A Touch of Brimstone, where there is the Hellfire Club. And in that episode, the amazingly stunning Emma Peel, that character, she actually has to pose as a character called the Black Queen of Sin.
Oh. And
she sports a very similar outfit to the same one that Jason Wingard imposes on Jean Grey. It's like that Black Queen outfit. So there's something very similar there. And in that episode of the Avengers called A Touch of Brimstone, there's an actor named Peter Wingard.
Okay.
Who is the physical basis for the character Jason Wingard. And the actor Peter Wingard was known for playing the character Jason King. So you just take the character name of Jason King with the actor name Peter Wingard, and you get, of course, Peter King. You get Jason Wingard. So that's where that part comes from. Then in addition, Sebastian Shaw is modeled after the actor Robert Shaw, who we all know, of course, from Jaws and many others. Donald Pierce is based on Donald Sutherland. And Harry Leland, who we're going to meet next issue, I think. He looks kind of like Orson Welles, and that he's very heavy at this point in time. And Leland's name, he comes from Harry Lime, the name Harry Lime, which is played by Orson Welles in The Third Man, and Jebediah Leland, played by Joseph Cotton in Wells's movie Citizen Kane. So, like, they're just taking Claremont is just taking names from, I guess, these models that he's either shooting at Byrne or maybe they're brainstorming it together. But every character's name, both, they're references to the roles they play and the actors that they are based on. And then even the name Sebastian Shaw, it's lifted from, or supposedly, it's lifted from a cult soap opera, Dark Shadows.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yes.
Yeah. There you go. So there's a lot there. Like, that's a lot of meat, I think.
That's a ton.
Yeah. So the Hellfire Club. There you go.
There you go.
Yep. The Avengers, I think, are all suspect because they should have stopped this from happening.
Right. Like when they have block parties, you know what I mean? And they're kind of like, we should close down the street and have a big festival for the kids. And it's like, oh, no.
Sure. And Trevor
Hellfire Club
of course, Emma Frost and Emma Peel. Like, yeah, there's the use of the name Emma even.
Exactly.
In both versions. Very good. Neat. Very neat. Ooh.
Evil.
For 150 years, it has been one of America's oldest, most exclusive gentlemen's clubs. Its membership list reads like a who's who of the nation's social, political, and economic elite. This is like conspiracy theory stuff, which is a lot of fun.
Well, what's that? What's that one? Skull and Bones Club or something?
Sure. Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
At the universities? Anyway, yeah.
I think, it's neat as, you're 10 years old or whatever, and you're reading this, and you're like, oh my God, there are secret societies. There are things in New York that are right under everyone's nose. And I want to know what a gentleman's club is.
Well, you got to go to Montreal for that.
Oh, no, you do not. But within the club is an inner circle, open only to a select few. An inner circle who see the club as an avenue to achieving power. One member of this inner circle is a man Jean Grey has come to know as Jason Wingard, which goes with my theory that there's never a Jason anywhere that I like except for Jason Lowe. Moving on. And he says, Shaw. I shouldn't read him. I was reading Shaw already, so someone else read Wingard.
Yeah, I can do Wingard, I guess. Okay.
Shaw. You gotta be a good gentleman.
What's that?
You got to be like gentlemanly and like suave.
Shaw, two of the X-Men who Rhodey faces are the oldest, most experienced, most dangerous members of the team. They're not to be taken lightly.
Neither is Sebastian Shaw. I didn't build $1 billion empire from nothing by making mistakes, Wingard, or underestimating my opponents. We've done pretty well against the X-Men so far.
Yes, but to capture them all, I'll believe it, Shaw, when I see it. In the meantime, I'll continue to work on subverting Ms. Grey and gathering her, of her own free will, into our fold.
How is your plan progressing, by the way? Do you think you have a chance of success?
Not think, Shaw. I know. The young lady hasn't realized it yet, but she's mine. Body and soul.
As you said, I'll believe it when I see it. By the way, awesome job on Wingard. You're both charming and swarmy. Like that was really good. And see here, there are those playing card icons.
Oh yeah. You're right. It's almost a mix. Yeah.
Like, dude, pick a lane.
Yeah, pick a lane. Right, good call. Yeah.
And then the other thing, they're going to go in another room, and it's all like Monopoly pieces, right?
Men with monocles and top hats.
No sooner has Wingard departed than...
Good evening, Shaw.
Frost, how fares my darling white queen? Is all well in Chicago? That's how he pronounces it. You didn't know that?
Chicago.
Uh-oh.
No.
We got a problem with Sandy. Chris, tone down the appeal.
All right. I'll step back and Shaw. I'll step back and Wingard.
No, because now I'm going to have to recreate that voice at home.
Yeah.
It's going to be on YouTube. You can just press play.
Oh, great. That's it.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, how come this video has 500 plays? What's going on? 800 miles to the west, in a massive industrial complex on the outskirts of the Windy City, Emma Frost, the White Queen, throws back her head and laughs. But yet there's no laugh here.
No.
Like, what the... like, put it in there, man. This is where the writer and the artist are not syncing up very well. But that would have been... Anyway. Go on, White Queen.
All right. It couldn't be better. As you can see, Colossus, Wolverine, Storm, and the X-Men's mentor, Charles Xavier himself, are all quite helpless. Xavier is under electro-sleep sedation, while the inhibitor fields built into their cages keep the others from using their powers.
Very good. What about the Neo-Mutant they sought?
She was one that got away. Her name is Catherine Pride. She's a child. We don't yet know her powers. We needn't worry about her, though. I think I can persuade her father to enroll her in my Massachusetts Academy. After all, it is one of the most prestigious private schools in the country.
And once she's there, she's ours for the taking. As the two villains talk in the most villainous voices of all time, no one in the vast holding chamber notices a sudden, slight stir in the air that heralds the unorthodox entrance of Kitty Pryde.
I did it again. I thought real hard, and I walked right through that wall like it wasn't even there. It gets easier each time I do it, too. Okay, I've snuck my way into here. What the heck do I do now?
So I don't think that's the voice Sandy was talking about. Yeah, Chris, your voice is like bordering on sock puppet. But I'm into it.
You're into that Kitty Pryde. Okay.
Oh, for sure. It's all good. That's right. The voices make the book 100 times better, and it's already a great book. Exactly. Yeah, nope, not that one.
Yep.
Not that one, for sure. So here, this is kind of cool and sort of weird. We spend 2/3 of a page going backwards and recapping what happened in the last issue. So if you miss it, you get caught back up. I don't know if we need to go through it. You know, we can see that this is where Emma Frost gets to her first meeting her as she comes home from dance class. Then the X-Men incognito meet her, and she notices each of them was very different. And Wolverine's spooky, Colossus is hunky. Then we see that they have a tussle at the soda shop where Wolverine was reading hardcore pornography. Fact.
Yeah.
He's reading Hustler and Penthouse.
Wait, what? In the last issue?
Chris, you didn't notice?
I did not notice.
Yes.
I guess I remember him saying, "You got to buy that. You got to keep reading it." Or something.
So the first time Wolverine opens up a book, it's Hustler. The second time, it's Penthouse.
Oh my goodness!
And then they defeat these 3 armored, drone goons, and then they're defeated almost instantly by Emma Frost and her amazing powers. And Kitty jumps aboard their hovercraft on the empty streets of the Chicago suburb Deerfield. And then follows them through. So that's all that is all about.
Okay, less sock puppety.
I'm into whatever you do, man. I'm here for it.
I ought to have my head examined, thinking I can free the X-Men all by myself. But I've got to do something. Storm is my friend. I can't desert her or the others. Besides, from what I've heard, once these creeps are done with the X-Men, they'll be coming after me. Can't make a sound.
I love that she's already heroic. Like this is in.
Immediately.
She's a good person, and you're on her side right away.
She whispers,
"Aurora, it's me, Kitty Pryde." Oh, cripe, she really looks out of it. Aurora.
Who? Kitty.
Shh, keep it down, for crying out loud. Someone will hear you. I came to help. What can I do?
I don't know. It's so hard to think. And she thinks about, because it's so hard, the inhibitor field that's affecting her powers. And we've seen in a previous issue when they're captured by Magneto, we learn about her past also in Cairo as a pickpocket and a thief. And she keeps lockpicks all over her costume, including in her headdress, headband, whatever we want to call that piece. I think she might mention what it's called here. But they missed one that's sewn into the fabric of her costume. They missed a tag that's sewn into the fabric. Ms. Frost, there's some kid by the cages. Sorry, there's someone by the cages. It's a kid.
I was thinking that guy was more of a Cletus.
Oh, sir, you read it. I'll read it.
Hi, Miss Frost. There's someone by the cages.
What is the line that Cletus says? Like, he has one that's specific. That is the "Hey Ma." I don't know. I guess he has. That's all he ever says is those "Hey Ma" lines.
Hey, Ma. It's a kid.
Anyway,
Kitty, take this. Find a telephone and call the number I'm giving you. That's telling us that she's handing off a number because otherwise we can't see, right? Tell whoever answers what's happened. Run for it, little one. Get out of here. I wish he calls the wrong number and the person, it's like a prank. They keep
that would be
hanging up the phone because they think she's a crazy person.
That's the what if. That's the other what if. That's
right.
She calls the wrong number.
So she heads to a dead end.
Yeah.
And she pulls this really great move where she dives through the floor.
That's cool.
It is super cool. Weird to draw, sort of surreal, but I think it's a good move also on Byrne's part to bring that black line, give us a little bit more. On this copy that we see before us, it looks almost like in the printing, there's part of her there. The black didn't print that well that we can see on the screen. In the version I've got in my hand, it is just a dead-on black strip. But I'm going to look to see what Terry Austin did in the Essentials version that I've got here, because I want to see if there is anything. No, it's a full black strip. It just looks like the roller didn't do a great job printing black on the one that was scanned for the issue that we see before us. Pure black. Very cool.
They do play, and speaking of connecting this to some of the other X-Men properties, they do have a scene in the third X-Men movie where Kitty is with Juggernaut and kind of takes him through the floor and then phases out of the floor and keeps him in there.
Yeah, it's an awesome
kind of a cool. Yeah, that was a very. I thought it looked pretty good.
Yeah, she does some similar stuff in her animated debut. It wasn't her debut. Pardon me. She actually appears in an episode of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends.
Oh, okay.
She's called Sprite, I believe, in that one, or maybe she's called Ariel. I got to go back and watch it. She's wearing a really weird costume you don't see very much of in the future in the comics, but. In Pride of the X-Men in 1988, 89-ish, in what would be, I guess, the pilot for the animated series, she does some phasing as she's figuring out her powers too. And in this, there's no special effect drawn. There's no Kirby Crackle or it's just she's just going right through the floor. And I wonder if maybe it's kind of a cooler choice to have her that there's no special effect on it, no comic book style power effect, just kind of the weird surreal thing of her just going through a solid object, half in, half out. It's neat.
It is neat, yeah.
All right. So obviously Emma Frost commands that they seal the whole area down. It's so interesting also how her drawing, she's so evil that she's not beautiful in this.
Right.
And how that character transforms into being one of the most sexualized female in Marvel today or over the last 15 years. It's just her sexuality is pushed so far forward and she's often drawn much prettier, but here she's just evil lady. Anyway, we can keep going to the next back at the club. Something that's going to go down. At that moment, back at the disco, Jean Grey has just finished her second circuit of the crowded dance floor. She's not even a quarter century old, yet she's fallen in love, died, resurrected herself. Does it say that in yours too?
Yeah, resurrected herself, yeah.
Good, just making sure. And saved the universe. She knows she once possessed the power of a god. That memory still terrifies and tantalizes her. So far, I've nothing to show for tonight but 3 drunken passes and a comment that my dress is tacky. Scott isn't doing any better. I wonder if Cerebro could have made a mistake.
Excuse me, miss. I was right. It is you. Hello again. Do you remember me? I'm Jason Wingard. We met in Stornoway.
Oh, yes, Their eyes meet, and suddenly reality changes around Jean. She's in love with Chris Sanagan. The 20th century gives way to the 18th, a lower Manhattan disco, to a burned out church in a woodland glade that will one day become part of Fifth Avenue. Unlike the previous time slips, Jean doesn't try to fight her way out of the past. This time, she accepts what's happening. Now, for anyone who has not been watching our show or reading X-Men comics, this is a recurring event. Every time she comes across this man, she experiences in her mind or in real life, we're not sure as readers, she goes to an alternate time. She thinks maybe she's experiencing a past life of a relative or something. But in this other time, she really is unable to resist Jason Wingard's charm, just like we in real life right now cannot resist Chris Sanagan.
It's dripping with honey.
And she's led to the altar, and her waiting husband-to-be, as always, his manly beauty takes her breath away. No pressure, Chris.
No pressure.
Dearly beloved, we're gathered here. So we are gathered together in the face of this congregation to join together this man and this woman in holy matrimony. I'm the most evil minister of all time.
You are.
It takes all the strength of will to stand demurely and listen to the vicar's service. Oh, I got to be a vicar? That's so good.
Vicar.
When she would rather be when she would rather be in Sir Jason Wingard's arms. Oh, I have to do okay. Wilt thou, Jason, have this woman to be thy wedded wife? I'm the vicar. Wilt thou love her, comfort her, honor? Okay, come on. Enough of that. Go ahead. I will. Good.
Good.
Love.
True love.
Smiling, his obsidian eyes glowing with an eerie, darkling light, the minister finishes the ceremony. I pronounce that they be man and wife. Sir, you may kiss the bride.
You're mine now, milady, bound to me until the end of time.
My lord, I would not have it any other way.
Milords, gentlemen, ladies of the Hellfire Club, I give you Jean Grey, our Black Queen.
Long may she reign.
Make out.
The ruined, desecrated churchyard explodes with cheers, but Jean hears none of them, as every facet of her being is overwhelmed by a physical and emotional tidal wave, the like of which she has never known. I'm thinking some marriage. Exactly.
Do you have the wing?
Then, as abruptly as it began, the time slip ends. Now, how do we make that noise, guys?
No.
I have to admit, like, this is one of those times where, even though I know Chris Claremont is really sniffing his own farts and loving it, I think it really sells. I completely believe that her mind is being taken over by this guy. I totally believe that he controls her, and that she doesn't know what the hell's going on. And no, I think his writing is excellent in this.
Yeah, and it's been planted, right? Like, I mean, that's one of the great things. Little bits here and there about her phasing into this world, always with him. Hey, that's, by the way, I love how he's like, remember me from that random small town in Scotland? She's like, of course, it's you. But seriously, like, it's a nice to, now we're in full immersion, right? Like, I think you're right. The belief is there.
Yeah, and now, of course, he's gotten her to make, I mean, like, in the mind manipulation side of things, when you get a person to make a proclamation or like denounce a past life or make a commitment to what you're putting forth, like, she said, I do. Right? She is becoming the thing that he's creating. She's not just passive. Now she's active. Mm-hmm. Right? She's choosing to embrace this. And having her revealed in this again, highly sexualized outfit that is evil. An evil, sexy outfit.
It's got a whip too.
That she does. Yeah, I mean, this sends
Like,
some
the outfit clearly wasn't enough, and I don't know, when you carry weaponry to your nuptials, but there you go.
weaponry, toys, sure. But I think it all really works. That's all I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Oh, Cyclops. Let's see what you get up to there, Scott.
Oh,
yeah. By the way, that's rad. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
it's so good. It's so silly. Like I still want that Death Star playset. Like I know that it's not that cool, and I know it's prohibitively expensive, and you're not going to find them in one piece, like all the parts together. But I want to play with that thing still after all these years.
And Jason, as the Star Wars, the Star Wars person that you are, that Imperial troop transporter, correct me, never in the movie, but shows up in like that's what they take from Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Well, it shows up on Rebels first.
Okay, but live action
made me feel incredibly redeemed because I still have my childhood Imperial troop transporter,
but it was never in the actual films, right? It's not even in the background scene or anything.
No, it was not. It was, I think, some concept art that just didn't. They never needed to use it.
Gotcha.
But I loved seeing these things, and it was, this is one of those like Kenner choices to have objects at different price points, and my family wouldn't like put out the money for the Millennium Falcon, but I could get this one. Like this is probably a $15 toy as opposed to the $30 toy.
Right.
And my parents were like, yeah, okay, it's it's his birthday or something like that. But this was one of the pieces I got, and for me, this was everything. It was a spaceship, it was a bus, it was whatever I needed it to be. So I love that one. But man, did I want that Death Star playset.
Very cool.
Oh, still do. Beautiful. I love these drawings of those figures, by the way. I think they look so like weird as promotional material.
Totally.
Just all quirky. Scott, let me explain. You'll never believe me because I keep doing this all the time with random strangers on the street.
Yeah.
He knows I'm a flat out liar. But how do I explain? I'm not even sure what happened myself. Did an ancestor of mine marry an ancestor of Wingard's? And that ceremony, those awesome clothes, what kind of woman was she? Scott.
I've never seen her act like that. It was as if she wasn't Jean at all. Only someone who looked like her. Hey, the announcer.
Ladies and gentlemen. Oh no. Here's the honey you all been waiting for. Oh no. Dazzler. Now I wonder what song you hear in your head when she makes this debut.
Disco to me, it's like.
But what disco?
Which
disco? Donna Summer?
Yeah.
Well, it could be.
Yeah, it has to be pretty cool. But is there a band even?
No, because isn't the sound coming from her?
No, dude. You clearly don't know anything about the Dazzler.
Then educate me.
I don't want to. I want the story itself to do it. So I don't want to say. Trevor says, I think weaponry is required at weddings in Arkansas, or as I call it, Arkansas. Yeah, holy cow. Yeah, the honey we've been waiting for. It's pretty bad. Listen, we're not defending it. We're poking fun of it, poking fun at it as well. There should be a band. Maybe we'll see one. Ooh, Xanadu, good call.
Oh,
something like that. Like maybe Donna Summer is not.
Yeah,
Xanadu seems a little like Donna Summer disco is kind of like good disco. It's sort of musically legitimate, where Xanadu is crap. And maybe this would suit her better. Okay, the room goes black and deathly still. That does not match the picture. Then the house band starts pounding.
Oh, there you go.
Rhythmic intro, and she is there. A vision in skin-tight silver, silhouetted by an awesome light show that shifts in color, intensity, and position to match her emotions as she sings. Woohoo! It's a sight. A performance that no one watching will ever forget.
Wow. I know zilch about disco, but this lady is good. My watch, the alarm's buzzing. the microcerebral scanner has finally found our new mutant. And it's Dazzler.
Oh my goodness. So
By the way, I wrote down after that first panel with the Wingard, the shit-eating grin on there. This is the time where I'm like, just blast him, Summers. just come on, Summers.
You could have taken
him right out.
Ended the whole story, no problem.
Ended the whole story.
Yeah, and then just walk out of there.
Gene, I've seen you make out with too many random people these last 3 issues.
And the phone rings in the Rolls Royce, and Nightcrawler goes to make his move.
Yeah, we weren't expecting any calls. Wonder who could be? Probably Professor X checking up on us. Boy, was he mad when I told him I was no longer using my image inducer. God or fate or dumb luck made me what I am, and I won't hide anymore, not even for the X-Men.
That's pretty cool, right? We've seen Wolverine. We've seen Nightcrawler use this little device that put a hologram over top of him to make him look like a normal person.
Errol Flynn.
Yes, totally like Errol Flynn. And for him to now like come to terms with who he is and just go out and be himself, it elevates the characters. Like that's his little arc that he's gone on. So that's pretty cool. I like that a lot. The moment Nightcrawler hears the strained, scared, young voice on the other end, he comes fully alert, shoving his personal introspections to the back of his mind.
Hello, is this the X-Men? I'm Kitty Pryde. Aurora told me to call this number. She and her friends and Professor Xavier have been captured. They need you guys to come rescue them. And me too. And please hurry. They're searching all over for me. I gotta go.
His night is no longer dull. Deadly, though, is something else again.
Wait, slow down, girl. I need details. Who captured the X-Men? And where are they being held?
I wouldn't worry about that, freak. Considering you'll be joining your mutant buddies before too long.
Yikes!
I wonder if there's like a better German expression for yikes.
I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Is the character's name actually Dazzler? Again, I don't want to spoil because maybe I don't think actually this issue will tell us. So I will spoil. Her name is Allison Blair, and Dazzler is her stage name. I think we'll leave it at that.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
In an instant, the Rolls is filled with a cloud of brimstone as the Nightcrawler is suddenly elsewhere.
It must be a two-pronged attack. One team to zap the X-Men in Chicago, another to take care of us. I bet the Vaughn, Scott, and Jean. He sees bruisers out here after me. Others like him are probably after them.
Teleporting won't save you this time, Nightcrawler. We know all your powers, and we're equipped to deal with them.
Yeah! Sonic beam, just like the one Cyclops used during the test sequence in the Danger Zone. Can't concentrate enough to teleport again. Can barely even think.
So that's a pretty cool thing. Again, like this has been set up for a long time. Yeah. Right? This is 5 issues ago. We're seeing that the Hellfire Club is tapped into the X-Men's, like all their computers and their phones. And we read an issue, I think it was issue, was it 110 maybe, where a guy named Warhawk went and actually tapped into all of their gear. So this has been building for 20 issues, that the Hellfire Club has been studying this group and, doing their research and coming up with weapons that are going to actually be effective, that we actually see ahead of time that work on the X-Men in the Danger Room and such.
Totally.
So we see does he defeat Nightcrawler or not yet? Okay.
Not yet.
We can keep going.
Yeah. So you can't even run, Mutie, because anywhere you can go, I can follow.
What? Somehow he's coming up the wall after me. This bruiser seems to have thought of everything. Thanks to that verdammt sonic ambush, I'm in no decent shape to fight. But for all our sakes, I've got to fight and win.
Just an art criticism here. Although, of course, yes, you can take this point of view with Nightcrawler having up the wall. This doesn't look special because that could be the ground.
Right.
Just him walking towards down a hallway. Turn that side, like maybe choose a different angle. another perspective, or rotate that panel to make it a little extraordinary that the guy is climbing the wall, because it doesn't show that he's climbing a wall. You have to read it in the script for it to be clear, you know? I'm going to criticize John Byrne. Look at me. Wow.
Hear that, Byrne? There you go.
Meanwhile, Scott, I need to talk to you.
Yeah. But when we're far away from this madhouse, okay, Gene? Somewhere private, peaceful. We'll leave after this set, after we've introduced ourselves to Dazzler.
Unfortunately, just as the young woman has the audience in the palm of her hand. What in?
Scanner marks 3 mutants, 1 on stage, 2 in the crowd. Take them.
Who in the blazes are, huh?
I don't know. Sorry, I'm trying to think what how do you power up I want to like get an echo effect in my voice.
Super high voice.
To make Phoenix's I gotta use some echo effect, but I don't have any for this particular anyway. I don't know, Scott, but the sooner Phoenix and Cyclops deal with it, the sooner we'll learn.
She transformed my street clothes into my costume just like that. I'm beginning to wonder if there's any limit to Phoenix's powers.
And again, criticism of Byrne here. I want to see that. I want to see that transformation. Like that for me as a kid, and even now, show them half in, half out of their clothes. Like, I mean, half out of their street clothes to uniform. Like, I want to see the molecules rearranging. If I have to, you know what I mean? Like, it's such a cool element of becoming a superhero is the moment you superhero up. Like when you power up, it's like a chest pump, and it's one thing to just put some action lines around it, but you could totally draw some kind of like shift as it's happening. It would have been obviously take more time, but it's worth it. There's payoff.
Yeah,
to me. But again, that's just me finding a way to criticize my favorite artist as a child. Cool. Okay, we can keep going. Sorry.
Yeah. And if there isn't, how much longer can Jean keep it under control?
For sure.
Still, it's nice to have that kind of muscle on your side in a fight. Knock them off balance, Phoenix. Let's clobber these clowns as fast as possible to avoid panicking the people in here.
It's a nice, sensible plan, but the men in armor have other ideas. A ball of energy envelops Phoenix, and she crumples.
That beam, it's exactly like a trap the professor devised for the danger room. It scrambles person's brainwaves. The effect is like psychic epilepsy. But to be effective, the beam has to be attuned to the target's specific brainwave pattern. How could they have known genes? Holy! This glop, it contains some form of ruby quartz. My optic blast can't punch through it.
It's amazing like how much thinking he's doing in this episode.
Yeah.
You know, in this issue, there's so much going on, but it's really hard to explain those little nuances, like that things are so specific to them. And I love that ruby quartz glop.
Yeah,
I want to play with the ruby quartz glop.
Yeah.
Very cool. This is insane. These refugees from Starship Troopers. What?
Yeah. So what is that a reference to?
It's a book, right?
Oh, I guess it was a book. I was trying to write. I mean, obviously familiar with the 1999 film, but I guess it was a book before. Okay.
They seem to be after me. I should hot-foot it out of here, but at the moment, I'm too darn mad. Chuckles. I had one dynamite debut going till you jokers crashed the gate. Now it's ruined.
Huh?
And for that, sucker, you're going to pay. Like, look at awesome, cool lights. Like, holy cow. Light, in all its infinite variety, bursts around the hapless man, instantly flooding his eyes, his mind, his soul. His brain can't cope with the sensory overload. It short circuits and turns itself completely off. So he's dead.
So she just kills a guy.
If his brain turns off, he's dead. Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dazzler is a murderer.
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 But that's like I thought the color effect looks really good there.
Trivia question: How many superheroes in their debuts kill people? Only one, Dazzler.
I like that pose though, where she's
Oh yeah, that's cool.
good. Yeah, very very cool.
He's catatonic. Oh, that's right.
He's not dead. Okay, fine. He's catatonic. I didn't mean to dazzle him so hard. Oh.
Nice.
I've never intentionally used my powers to hurt anyone before. I didn't know.
The computer didn't lie, babe. You are powerful.
Shoot, the other one, and he's just as sexist as the other guy.
Consider yourself lucky my employers want you alive.
I figured the life of a disco queen would be exciting, but this is ridiculous. Got to keep moving. That sounds like the name of a song.
Got to keep on moving.
we could write the Dazzler
theme song
concept record right here, right now.
Right now.
Got to keep moving. I don't know what that zap beam is. I'd really rather not find out. Dazzler's attacked. Decked the goon with the psionic scrambler. I'm free to use my powers again.
Thanks, Phoenix. It was getting a little hard to breathe in there. You tin-plated terrors have had your chance. Now it's the X-Men's turn.
And with the suddenness of thought, Psyche cuts loose. The irresistible hammer blows of his optic blasts, smashing his two foes off their feet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That picture, I believe, was also used in the Marvel Universe handbook to show Cyclops' powers. I'd love it if there was more of that from him all the time. Like, you get these two giant Iron Man dudes coming at you, just pow pow, the hammer blows. Like, that's really really neat to see.
They don't show it a lot, but when they do, they show him kind of letting loose a bit, or using his powers in a really creative way.
Yeah,
it's great. It shows him because he's kind of like the leader and kind of barks orders and sometimes uses these eye blasts. But when we get to see him kind of engage more, it's really quite thrilling.
I agreed. And there's, like what we've talked about before, the DeLuca effect of having two Cyclops bodies drawn on the same torso, like, or he's moving so fast that there's a blur. And Murder by Disco, Trevor, is the name of the album. We got to do this now. We got to write this album.
All right, well, it's got to be written now.
Murder by Disco, all using dialogue that Dazzler says. That's incredible. Wow. That's so cool. I got to turn. Oh, there we go. We have one more to read here.
Oh,
Cyclops.
Yeah. So, as I expected, the armor blunted most of the force of my shots. But even so, I was channeling so much energy into so tightly focused a beam, it knocked them silly. That noise. Nightcrawler.
Anybody give me a hand.
Poor guy. Is this what you had in mind? Nice. She could rip that guy's head.
She rips the guy's head off.
Yeah. I love it. It would be cool. I mean, push this a little further. If this is happening today, like every nut and bolt, like every fastener comes out, like you see, she takes apart the suit in an instant, if the artist ever could take the time to do that, which would be wild. But anyway, yeah, very cool.
Looks like it's open season on mutants again. How do you feel, Nightcrawler?
Black and blue all over, but I'm that anyway. Things are worse than you think, Cyclops. The X-Men in Chicago have also been attacked, and they and Professor X have been captured.
Quickly, Nightcrawler tells Cyclops what Kitty Pryde had told him.
How do I know this? Kid is on the level. She could be luring us into an ambush.
Hey, hunk. You Avengers or something? You mind cluing me in on what's going on down here?
We're, X-Men, miss.
Call me Dazzler, darling. That's my name. That's what I do. Dazzle people.
Have you ever wondered where your light powers come from?
Nope.
Best response to your superhuman power reveal ever. Nope.
You're a mutant, Dazzler. You have powers and abilities that set you apart from the rest of humanity. And as you've just seen, there are people who will stop at nothing to capture or kill you.
Are you serious?
Look around, Dazzler, and tell me. For your own safety, I think you'd better come with us.
As they reach the street, a series of explosions shatters the top floor of the building. Oh my gosh! Like I want to see that.
Yeah.
The disco. Inside, quick! I'll protect the car from falling debris with a telepathic shield. Cyclops, I'm not picking up our attackers' thoughts anymore. They just cut out.
I was planning to have Jean telepathically interrogate one of those goons. I guess their masters wanted to make sure I couldn't. Nice people. They seem to know an awful lot about the X-Men. Too much. But how? Who are we up against? What are they after?
Cyclops, a man waiting at the corner.
It's the man Jean kissed in the disco. Is he part of this puzzle too? Or simply my rival for Jean's affections? The first I can deal with. The second, I'm not so sure. Either way, I don't like him.
Blast him, Cyclops. Just like a drive-by blast.
Yeah.
The Roll's headlights touch Jason Wingard for a moment, throwing his shadow across the wall behind him. Cyclops automatically notes the image, but his mind, preoccupied with a host of far more pressing concerns, doesn't register it. Perhaps one day he will remember and recognize who he passed this night. By then, however, it may well be far too late for him, for the X-Men, and most importantly, for the woman he loves. Oh my goodness, what an issue. And hello there, toying around. Kevin, how you doing, man? Welcome back from New Jersey.
Jersey.
Listen, mister.
Take a shot.
Sandy's right. So, as a kid, I did recognize this silhouette, and it was like actually a reveal. Chris, do you recognize the silhouette, or do you see anything there, or no? Okay, so this is new to you.
Yeah, this is new to me.
Oh, good.
For a moment, throwing a shadow across the wall behind him, Cyclops notes the image.
I'm just going to tell you something.
Yeah, this is new to me.
You don't know.
I don't
the
know.
Silhouette does not match the figure.
Oh, okay.
And
is it like Mr. Sinister, maybe?
It's sure, maybe it's Mr. Sinister. You're gonna have to find out.
Ooh. In a year on previously in X-Men episode 69.
It was a pretty exciting thing at the time for this kid who was reading it. I really enjoyed uncovering the Dark Phoenix Saga as it happened when I was reading it 10 years after it happened. But I knew the character already, but I didn't know that the character was part of the Hellfire Club and had infiltrated the X-Men's minds the way that he did. I also love the roles with Missing a Door.
Yeah, right.
Extra cool.
Which means he could blast him just like that.
Yeah.
He's not going to ruin his car.
And boy, oh boy, does Dazzler ever suck as a character so far. She was awful. Like there's no meat on that bone at all. Like nothing compelling about her. Or you ever care where your powers came from? Nope.
Nope.
Did you ever wonder how the sun is in the sky? No.
No.
Yeah, it's really bizarre, but very cool issue. Like again, building up the tension, putting pieces together.
Like the Hellfire Club, mystery, conspiracy, formidable opponents.
Yeah.
They know their
Very
secrets.
cool.
They know their powers. They have developed tech to counter it. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. And like, how far is this going to go? Right. We don't know at this point. I'm going to show you guys, of course, as I've told you once before, or many times before, there are other comics, other stories in the back. This is the cover of Classic X-Men 36 by Stephen Lytle, who has taken over cover duties from Art Adams.
I like that cover.
By the way, Art Adams, who's supposed to be at Fan Expo in a month. Hopefully we get to meet that guy. And I heard from a source at San Diego Comic-Con that guy blew off his commission list at San Diego. He had like estimated, you know, pick a number, $10,000, $100,000 worth of commissions to do for the weekend, and just said, "Eh."
I'm Art Adams.
So cool, you know, 2-colored cover. Nothing to do with this issue, I think. Just someone having fun with Dark Phoenix kind of stuff. But the backup story has got your boy in it. And some
Moira, what are you doing, love?
And it was not written by Claremont, and it was not written by Innocenti. It's written by Fabian Nicieza, who is famously like a 90s X-Men writer who some people will call like one of the luckiest men in comics, because he basically takes over after Claremont leaves, but he's writing the stuff that Jim Lee is drawing. Like the artists are doing all the work, and he's just like scripting and getting paid writers' rates. So Mark Bright is on pencils, and Joe Rubenstein is on inks. Rubenstein, people like us would know him from the Marvel Universe covers, which he inked a lot of those over Byrne, and of course the Wolverine Limited series.
Right.
Mark Bright went on to do, I don't know if you ever read Solo Avengers, some Iron Man, a couple issues of G.I. Joe, but it's, you know, he's like kind of house style, nothing too extraordinary, you know, obviously really good at what he does. It's just, I don't think he's anyone's favorite artist. There's nothing against it. So this is a story about grief and not being able to let go. And, but Chris, your little love affair with Banshee, we get some shirtless, come over from the funeral, take off your
workout
clothes.
sequence, baby.
Yeah. So Moira is not talking. She's shutting down, and he doesn't know what's going on. And of course, he finds out that she's going into the lab, and she's working on her son's corpse and doing some experimenting.
Ah, creepy.
And there he says, Moira. There you go.
But
So she's playing with her son's dead body, and she's trying to bring him back. Kevin McTaggart. And eventually she has to let go. And she even takes like a biopsy. They tell more about her history with her ex, who, you know, when we read that issue, we realized like, oh yeah, she was raped.
yeah,
And her son is a product of that abuse and that violent, you know, that assault. But eventually he talks to her, and she accepts it, and she actually passes out and all that stuff. Like, it's really emotional. And she lets her son's body, I'll just show you the end. She like says goodbye and lets it like totally dry out, and they walk away and they have their peace. So, and then you get ads for Nth Man. Cool. Nth Man is a dude who shoots stuff.
That's cool.
Maybe. But that was the backup. I find that like the backups used to be these things that added into the story that I cared about. And once the Proteus thing was over, like, I'm past. I don't want to go backwards and hear about it. But again, it's these opportunities to add in some supplementary stuff. And sometimes they take it and it's valuable. Sometimes it's not. One thing I have noticed in the shift in the classic X-Men, by the way, over the last 10 issues or so, is there's no more changes to the content in the issues. No more additional pages and no more modifications. It's like Claremont and the editorial team realized they were, you know, their comic books weren't as good in the first part of the new X-Men, all different X-Men run. Right. Now they're in like Uncanny, they're just rolling, and every issue is kind of like the best that Marvel was producing at the time. You know, this is now at this point, it's the top selling Marvel book. It's award winning. It's like a fan favorite. It's highly successful and like not perfect, but like the best that the company can make. They're not changing anything in hindsight. They're like leaving it all the same in these classic issues because they're nothing to fix other than Dazzler's lack of character. Yeah.
She's just not interested in her mutant power organ.
No.
I just have it and it works. I love it.
Who knows? Chris, did you go ahead and read the next issue already? Or you?
No.
Okay, good. Well, I wasn't sure. And Nelson, did you read ahead yet?
I've been dying to jump into it. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
Again, a lot of it is revisiting my younger days, and I think I have to find that quiet moment to tap into that.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. By the way, how are you reading it? What's your the mechanism by which you read it? Do you have an issue or trade there? What do you got?
Yeah, I have a trade that I picked up some years back, and it's
Nice.
you know what, it's a decent reproduction. Colors are a little far more intense than
Sure.
the original print, but all that info is that should be there is there, and I think the only thing is page placement, because without the ads, certain page reveals aren't quite there.
Right.
But for the most part, all in all, it's a lot of fun.
That's pretty cool. That works really well. It's amazing to think about. We talk on this show about things that happen in the comic that you can then see in the television show in the 90s or in the Fox films. You mentioned the Juggernaut and Kitty Pryde, and then like the future of the MCU. We know that Fox is now owned by Disney, so we're going to see X-Men into the MCU, and they had 3 years worth of movie announcements.
Yeah, that was wild.
And there was no X-Men.
There's no X-Men.
There's no X-Men announced. It doesn't mean there won't be X-Men.
No, of course not. There was 3 movies announced for Phase 6, and 2 of them are Avengers.
Yeah, pretty amazing.
Right. So plenty of Fantastic Four. So plenty of space.
Of course, that's absolutely how it can go. And you can change titles too. Like you could announce Avengers Secret War, and then when it comes time to put information out about the movie, it could be just called like Marvel Secret War, and it could be X-Men,
and they just show up.
And who knows? They change movie titles commonly, like they changed Infinity War and Endgame. Originally, I think it was Infinity War 1 and 2 when they first announced
I think you're right. Yeah, I think when it was announced, it was a 2-part Infinity War. That was called. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can get changes. It's not a big deal. But boy, oh boy, did I ever want to see something coming with the X-Men. And maybe we'll see something at the Disney event at D23 in about a month. They'll show hopefully more like the X-Men cartoon, not just a couple still shots, but we'll get maybe some footage from that. But I'm going to spoil something here from Ms. Marvel, okay, or Miss Marvel, I guess if you pronounce it that
Only
way.
2 episodes in.
I don't care. I'm spoiling for you.
Go ahead.
Okay, Nelson, did you watch it?
Oh yes.
Okay, so this is
spoil it. See if I care. It's only live on YouTube.
At the end of the thing, you know how her buddy does all like the science on her and helping her. So he tells her something at the end of the series. It doesn't change anything in the series at all. Mm-hmm. He just says, like, yeah, you've got your bangle and you've got like whatever that energy is within you, but there's something else about you that's different than your family.
Gotcha.
Some kind of genetic
mutation.
And there is a little nod to the X-Men theme song with the instrumentation that they do on the show. So it's like the flavor of the show, but the melody that you get a little hint of it. So this goes to the idea like X-Men are coming. We don't know what form, we don't know what when it's happening, but they're edging us.
But they use the word mutation.
They use the word mutation.
Yeah, that's the X. Now we're talking the X first, right? Yeah.
So this is big for people like us who want to see this happen. The second thing, of course, that connects to this is that when Miss Marvel was originally pitched as a comic book character, she was supposed to be a mutant.
Oh.
But at the time, Marvel Studios did not have the film rights to Fantastic Four or X-Men.
Right.
So they weren't making new stuff in the comics for those properties. They were basically like very subtly squeezing or cutting off the intellectual property in the comics for those film franchises. So there was no new blood. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So instead, they just tilted her toward the Inhumans and said that she was exposed to the Terrigen Mist.
Yep.
So she's an Inhuman. But her original inspiration was for her to be a mutant.
Oh.
So she's back to that.
Cool.
Secondly, they also might not be working with the name X-Men. It might be getting, and I don't know how I feel about this. Conflicted, I guess, same with everything else. It might be getting phased out as a brand.
Right.
Because it is so male-centric.
Sure.
Which I get. But you got to keep the word, the letter X. Like that has to be. A few years back, my daughter, who was much littler, of course, she told me she's daddy, like, Storm, Rogue, Shadowcat, like these are prime members. Phoenix. Why are they called X-Men? I don't think that's right. I was like, okay, what do you want to call them? She says X-Force. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
So, you could come up with another way or call them the X-Mutants or something. But I wonder what they're going to do. But I really wanted to see Feige announce something.
Right. That's what you're waiting for.
I know we've talked about this a few times on the show as to how we want to see them introduced. But man, oh man, I'm so excited for the day when I'm really hoping that we're going to get X-Men movies soon. Nelson, do you have a favorite fan cast for Wolverine or anything like that? Is there any wish you have? Sorry, I know I'm putting you on the spot.
I don't know if there's anyone out there right now who's really saying, this should be Wolverine. I mean, I know a while back there were rumors and even some fan casting Daniel Radcliffe. And at first I laughed, and then someone photoshopped. I mean, they over photoshopped, but I'm looking at it and I go, no, it's still no. Still a no. I don't know. I don't think it's someone with a brand behind them, someone who's going to be strongly identifiable. It could be someone that they just find who just fits that look.
Well,
and
that's Hugh Jackman, right?
Hugh Jackman was like
no one knew who Hugh Jackman was. Right?
No, not in North America. No, definitely. And so, when those first images of Hugh Jackman as Wolverine came out, people were like, yeah, I can see it. And again, I think that's what it'll take. It'll take someone who they'll discover and it'll have that look. They'll just fit.
Yeah.
But anyone right now, I can't. I think there's a lot of baggage that comes with wherever they're coming from. Sure. But then again, that being said, when they first announced Chris Evans as Captain America, I went, what, that Human Torch guy, the guy from all those teen movies?
Right.
I mean, everyone always picks on Joker and who they cast, and there's always that. But for me, it was Chris Evans as Captain America. Really? That was the one that set me off. That's no way. And then hit it out of the park. I can't.
Yeah, made us all care about Captain America when none of us cared about Captain America.
Yeah.
I'm serious. We still talk. Jay and I talk about it. We're like Captain America. Who cares? And then it's between the Brubaker run with the Winter Soldier as the comic, and then the Evans cast, and you're like, oh, I love Captain America now.
Yeah. I had Infinity War on yesterday.
Yeah.
While I was working, and just that part where he's in the Edinburgh train station. And behind the train, and then he just I every time I get Peter tingle, my hairs on my arm go up every time that scene happens.
That was a great moment in the theaters.
But everything in those 10 years built up to those moments, and then of course build up to his ending.
Yeah.
So what does it have to do with Wolverine? Who knows? The reality is there's so many people out there, and we just have to trust the storytellers to do this. Yes. Though on one quick MCU note, they did announce today who the director is for Avengers Kang Dynasty. It's Destin Daniel Cretton is how he pronounces his last name. I don't know how he pronounces the last name. The guy who directed Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings is directing the first Avengers 5 in 2025.
Avengers 5.
Which is amazing.
So nuts. This is the world we live in.
I don't think that there's anything, in my humble opinion, I don't think there was anything from, sorry, I should say flip it. Everything that he was able to do action-wise and in terms of special effects, collaboration for Shang-Chi leads to a good Avengers movie.
Oh, yeah.
Right? He handled the fun, the action, the emotion stuff, get along with actors. So obviously the Marvel brass has faith in him. He shows he can do it. If there is a complaint you have with the movie, it's not going to be from the director. It could be the script. It could be, something else. But that is very exciting. And I'm seriously hoping the Russos come back for Secret Wars, as they said they would years ago.
Okay.
Can you imagine? Oh,
I know they've expressed strong interest. To them, they say that was their favorite story growing up.
Yeah.
And they really, so in their hands, by all means, go for it.
if we can get some
totally.
X-Men in that, we get the FF, the
Oh, yeah.
X-Men, and the Avengers all in Secret Wars.
Yeah.
Now they did say the Russos are not directing. They did come out and say that. Marvel.
They did?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I'm just reading it right now, but
Okay.
it just says Feige confirmed Russos aren't involved with the Kang Dynasty or Secret Wars.
Or Secret Wars. Wow.
Yeah. Regardless, he was quick to mention this doesn't rule out the return to the MCU altogether. There you go. They're doing the X-Men movies.
Oh yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see how that all plays out. It's going to be so much fun, but we do need to have the X-Men and Secret Wars, X-Men FF and the Avengers, and it'll be great. On that note, it's getting late. Next issue 131, is another big one. Do I have it here? I might have a copy of it. Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't own that one. I'm not sure.
I have it buried on this disc right here.
Oh, and I have the classic X-Men version, and I have the Amazing Essentials, black and white. I love those things, as everybody knows. So we'll be reading that as we continue on with the Dark Phoenix Saga. How are the X-Men ever going to get rescued? Will the Dazzler be an impediment to their success? Or will she be able to bring some sweet, sweet disco jams? And what are the other tracks on that album? I really need to know. I want to hear that record right now. Nelson, where is the next place people will be able to see you in person at a comics event?
Fan Expo. So,
What? Two?
That's amazing news. Amazing news.
Sweet.
We'll be there too, of course. And I'm looking forward to not talking to you, but talking to Sandy as she comes around and you're just
100%.
busy doing commissions and awesome sketches. You do really, really great looking stuff. So I'm excited for that. So
Did I ever show you, Jay, did I ever show you Nelson did a sketch for me, or I guess as part of, I think, ordering one of your comics of A.Y. Jackson? But like, Rivers, I love that. Like the A.Y. Jackson, that's like still,
was that like, that was a long time ago, wasn't it?
it might have been a couple of years.
yeah. That's,
Time is lost on meaning, but
oh, you know what? I think that's when the third issue came out. So it's about a year ago, just over a
okay,
year.
there you go.
Yeah.
But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I love when other people draw like the historical figures that we also get to have in our books. It's so much fun. It makes them more alive, like when other people are drawing them too.
Yeah.
Very cool. So we'll see you, at Fan Expo. That will be awesome. Sandy says she'll be there supporting my hubby and my friends. Yeah, that's
Thanks,
awesome.
Sandy.
Yeah, a very positive person Sandy is. I have to say that for sure. So Fan Expo, that's awesome. And then in terms of getting your next book, I know you were telling me before we went online, or I should say on air, about talking to your printer. What's your timeline like? Will it be out for Fan Expo, do you think, your next issue?
That's so long as everything goes well with the printer, it'll be ready for Fan Expo. So it'll be nice to have a big debut at Fan Expo with issue 4. And the theme that connects all 4 stories together will be war. Actually.
Nice.
So they're all Canadian war artists. So
we're big fans.
Yeah.
And war. What is it good for? Yeah. Well, there you go. So we really appreciate you being on. Where can we find you online, Nelson?
I'm on Instagram at Nelson Caetano _. I'm also on Twitter, and that's pretty much it. It's only so much I can do during the day and keeping on touch with social media because it sucks out a lot.
It does.
It does suck out a lot of time out of, just to be on there, see what everyone else is doing, because I find it inspirational seeing what everyone else is doing. It motivates me, but at the same time, it takes me away from the drawing table. So
Totally. Well, that's good to know, and we'll keep our eye out on you. I follow you there, and I always love seeing your stuff. So that's very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for being with us tonight. It's been a pleasure getting to finally hang out with you.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while.
I'm glad you're a lot of fun, and I loved hearing your Cyclops reading shift to getting more intense and gritty as the
I don't know. It just sounded, for me, it's just too wholesome at first. Like, you got to give him some edge, and that's the thing with Cyclops, is that he's just a little too clean cut. That voice just gets lost, and I don't know, somewhere between Nightcrawler and.
It's good. No, you did a good job.
I sort of lost that. I had to pick up my game.
I thought it was excellent, and he had the most lines in this issue that he's ever had. It was like a heavy lifting you did tonight.
Heavy
So thank
psych
you for
issue.
that.
Yeah.
Good night to everyone out there in the chat. Thanks for hanging out with us on the live stream. As always, you can find us. Good night, Sandy. You can find us at group7comics.ca, and that's the number 7. You can get our books like Group of 7 Most Secret Tale, Peregrines, which is Group of 7 issue 7, with featuring Peregrines, and our latest Peregrines Londinium. You can get all those things on our website. You can find us on social media at Group of 7 Comics, the number 7. And where can we find you, Chris?
At Chris Sanagan.
Look at that.
On the Instas and on the Twitters.
Yep, and you can follow me on Instagram at Jason Lapidus Art or at Jason Lapidus on the other socials. And that's it for us tonight on Group of 7 Comics Presents.
One thing.
Oh, what is it?
One thing before I run out here, I got to do my obligatory thank you, new subscribers out there. I got new subscribers. So Jonathan Kachuba, thank you for subscribing. Our pal, who also will maybe likely be at Fan Expo. We'll see. Maybe.
I hope so.
Another GTA creator. Rebecca Zed. Z, but I'm called Zed. Rebecca Zed, thank you.
It's Zed.
And Leah Swires.
Nice.
Thank you for subscribing to our channel.
Thank you.
We hope you enjoy the content.
All right, guys. Everyone out there, thanks for hanging out with us. And we'll see you next time on Previously in X-Men. Cheers.